What's up, guys? I'm Michael Vorpal, and welcome to the Common Sense is Not Dead podcast, where this is a show for those who believe that common sense isn't and shouldn't be dead. So, if you think a man can be a girl and a girl can be a man, this show and I probably are not for you because common sense would tell me that's not true and impossible. But if you do believe that, you might as well stick around because maybe you're still going to gain something of value, some perspective that might, I don't know, hit you in the head and bring you back to common sense where everyone needs to be in reality. So, with that being said, freedom of speech is incredibly important, and I aim to execute that right to the fullest extent possible, and it's necessary. And like I said, I plan to do that here and have freedom of thought. So, with that being said, welcome to that aspect as well. That's what I truly believe in. I sworn to uphold and defend that and many other things. But let me get some legalese and legal housekeeping out of the way. Yes, I'm an active duty United States Marine, so I want it to be known that this show is in no way an official affiliation to the Department of Defense, United States Marine Corps, or any other agency. The thoughts, opinions, and perspectives expressed are mine and mine alone and do not represent any official remarks, statements, or anything the like of the mentioned agencies or equivalents. Long story short, this show is in no way and is not meant to be connected to official organization business, releases, or equivalent. I think that about sums it up with all the legalese. So let's get into the show and why it's here. All right, this show is my way of giving back to you, the community, the American people, the service members, families, leaders, everyone out there, because I feel pulled and called to talk about certain things that a lot of people aren't really in the mood to talk about and give honest perspectives. And, you know, as a Christian, as a leader, as a husband, as a father, as a Marine, I'm called to do the right thing. And that's really what is driving me to do these things. And I really just, I don't know, I've been sitting silent for a long time and I really can't do that anymore. So within this podcast, there'll be different types of episodes or shows. The first kind of show you see is something that's called Let's Talk About It, where I discuss headlines and things I see on the internet, social media, or in person, and provide some opinion or insight as to what my common sense, objective, like value seeking and providing inputs would be for that. Okay. The second kind of episode is called Saved Rounds, where those of us in the military are very familiar with it. Hey, are there any saved rounds? That's where there might be a little nugget of information, a little thing, tip, trick that I can provide for you to apply immediately into your life that can absolutely springboard your future success. The third kind of episode is called Scroll and Troll, where I like to have fun with this one. I like to find whether it's TikToks, Instagram Reels, videos, clips, whatever the case is, and really bring some common sense value to those clips. A lot of the time I'm trolling in a sense of making people better and realizing that our actions are incredibly important and that we need to adhere to, whether it's the values, the customs, the courtesies, the disciplines that will only keep you moving towards your goals and keep the regimented discipline alive in our day-to-day lives. And then the last show is called Full Send Q&A, which is a Q&A style episode where you can send your questions in to me and I'll answer them to the best I can. Now, it can be about anything. And I might not know anything about the question you're asking. And you know what? That's fine because I always want to learn. I'll do some research and I'll get back to you with whatever I find out. You know, that's part of us sharing this growth journey together, right? Because I believe that together we can grow. And I don't know everything. And I'm humble enough to know that. Needless to say, God will always tell me when I don't know enough. So full send your questions. I'll answer them to the best of my ability. If you ask a stupid question, just know that I'll probably let you know. And needless to say, I'll move on to a good one. So don't try and troll me. I'll just troll you back, and you can't troll a troll who trolls better than you. You know what I'm saying? So you can submit your questions in the comment section if you're watching on YouTube, and I will be able to see them there on those types of episodes, or you can send them to fullsendforanswers@gmail.com. Again, that's fullsendforanswers@gmail.com. That's the email I have set up for your questions. Just provide a little context and I'll be able to answer them to the best of my ability. Now, I'm not doing this for free, so I need you all to contribute to the show. I need you to be here with me, okay? I feel like I'm going to be putting myself in the crosshairs, so to speak, in some ways for the stuff I'm going to say and things like that. I'm no stranger to that. It's happened many times. I've been talked to a lot about my social media. Needless to say, I'm within the confounds and I'm never going to do anything stupid enough like that. However, I need you to help me with this, okay? I need you to pay a fee, a royalty, if you will, or, just help me grow the show. And that's how you can help me out. I just need your help. Okay. For the amount of stuff and putting myself out there the way I am, I hope that it provides value and that you can provide just that one thing back. Share it with one like minded friend, individual, person who served, veteran, or those who are currently serving. That, maybe you could just be like, hey, get a load of this guy, right? What is this guy's deal? Whatever the case is, I hope that it provides value. I don't want you to share the show if you don't get value, if you weren't entertained, if it didn't make you laugh, cry, give you something to think about. If it did nothing for you, then don't share it. But if it did something for you, all I ask is please share the show, because I don't think that it's too big of an ask for you to do so. So don't be dense. Let's share the common sense. All right. Today's Let's Talk About It. We got to talk about it. All right. Let's get into the show. Whew, man, these intros, I'm going to get better at it. I'm going to get smooth at it. But we got to talk about it. We got to talk about the Super Bowl. All right. And quite frankly, I don't care who won. Honestly, the only way I found out was when my wife looked it up this morning, actually. And that's okay to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I really don't care who won. I don't. But there is something I do care about. I was a recruiter for a total of 5 years cumulative in my career so far, in the Marine Corps. And a headline jumped out at me. So let's just go ahead and talk about it. However, we need to take a look at this. We absolutely need to take a look at this. This, okay, is the overall recruiting pattern this FY starting in October. Again, 5 years total on recruiting duty. It's like I can't leave it. And I'm super interested to see where this goes because I have my thoughts on how to fix this recruiting crisis that's going on. Okay. But needless to say, we got to look at the data. We got to look at the data. We got to look at the stats. We got to go ahead and see, okay, how are we going to navigate this, right? So here is where it looks at percentage attained for total force attainment, meaning how many individuals each branch needs to have in order to meet its yearly goal to sustain the defense forces within each branch. And this I have graphed out. This is actually straight from the office. I'm gonna butcher this, but it's under it's a .gov website under the Department of Defense, and I think even Public Affairs. I believe it is. No, it's not Public Affairs. Anyway, it's from the official website, and that'll be in the description below for you to look at. But looking at these, and as you're looking at this, as I'm running my suck here, you'll notice that the Air Force right near on par with 100%. The Army, they are barely reaching after December total so far to date under 75%. The Marine Corps above 100%. Navy, we're right around 60 ish. It looks like there, and Space Force, they're at a hundo, and the grand total. Look, the grand total, we're barely hovering at like 80, 85 ish. I think the number was all right percent overall. Now, the branches, Space Force, extremely small. Marine Corps is a lot smaller than the other branches as well. Air Force, aim high, continue to live in hotels, do great things. I love y'all, right? And I have family in the Air Force. Look, we always have to make that little dig at one another, right? So aim high, chair force, hotels. It is what it is. I chose my branch. All right. The men's department. So with that being said, though, in all seriousness, we need to take a look at something, because how does this tie into the Super Bowl? Well, I'm happy you asked, because this headline is what stuck out to me from military.com. Super Bowl Sunday. Here's how each of the military services will make a showing. All right. Let's just get into this. Okay. So we'll start with the Army. All right. Within the article, it goes to explain how each branch, all right, wanted to go ahead and utilize the Super Bowl to try and springboard recruiting and ascension and all of those things. All right, so the Army, the largest service and most impacted by the recruiting shortfalls, is zeroing in on Spanish advertising by buying ad space for a dozen 30-second ads across Univision, VIX, and Paramount Plus, which will be broadcasting or streaming the game in Spanish. Separately, it bought ad space on Reddit and Instagram, popular social media platforms for younger Americans. Hispanic recruitment has been key for the Army as it seeks to fill its ranks with the demographic making up more of the force than the general population. In 2023, 23.5% of new recruits were Hispanic, higher than the overall US population, which is 19% Hispanic, according to US Census. Last year, the Army had a shortfall of about 10,000 recruits, missing its target of 65,000 new soldiers. Part of the slump is due to the young Americans being unable to meet the service and body weight or academic standards for enlistment. Okay, wait a minute. There's a lot to unpack here. One, I'm happy at the fact that the Army is using social media streaming and social media platforms and streaming platforms in order to try and engage the individuals who are most likely to serve, which is the 17 to 24 age demographic. What stuck out to me is how we're using an ethnicity based approach with trying to hit a demographic of Hispanic and Spanish speaking individuals, which I kind of understand, and nothing against that because, as everyone knows, every branch of the military, we don't care what race you are. It doesn't matter. You're an American. Okay. You're an American citizen. Let's do this. Right. We all bleed red at the end of the day. I have yet to come across anyone who really gives any hoots about what race you are. And the fact that this is still a conversation blows my mind, but that's a topic for another day. And I'm absolutely going to address that and talk about that in the future. However, the fact of just looking at the stats, taking all of that aside, emotions out of it, let's look at the stats again, real quick. Okay. Look, it says 23.5% of new recruits last year were Hispanic. So, just based off of those numbers, if you're going to miss and have a shortfall last year of 10,000 recruits, but you're going to use the Super Bowl in order to target what last year provided you 23.5, that's really only going to provide you, if you bat one for one, 2,350. Okay. 2,350. You know what? Let me make sure my math is mathing. All right. Let me sure my math is mathing. 10,000 times 0.235. 2,350. Never do math in public. But what about the other, I don't know, over 3/4 of your demographic? Now, what I'm wondering is would it make more sense to target a bigger group of likely prospects, of likely new soldiers of over 75%, according to last year's statistics? Or are we going to put money and funds in a demographic that's only going to lead you to less than a quarter, if you bat one for one, less than a quarter of what you needed? So we're leaving, what is that, 7650? Yeah, 7650 on the table. What are you doing to target the other 7,650? You see what I'm saying? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. Okay. Now, a lot of people make a lot of decisions. It is what it is. But the fact that we are making it known that we are targeting a certain ethnicity, again, that's a topic for another conversation. I understand that that is a significant chunk of your recruiting force. However, I don't think that's your main issue. Your main issue I'll address at the end of this. All right. Let's keep this show on the road, though. All right, let's see how the Air Force is doing. The Air Force, again, they were right up there, about 100% so far. The Air Force has set up a booth at the NFL Fan Experience, a side event with a festival atmosphere inside Mandalay Bay Convention Center, where potential recruits can get information and also meet Madison Marsh, the 22-year-old Air Force second lieutenant and master's student at the Harvard Kennedy School Public Policy Program, who is just crowned 2024's Miss America. Now, here is where I got to give credit where credit is due. Air Force, phenomenal. Okay. Historically, never really a major issue in terms of the recruiting and attainment. And again, all jokes aside, they have their purpose. All right. They have their certain fields. They have their mission as an organization, and they've never really had to struggle per se, as in the other branches in terms of the recruiting force. However, they still are doing things that are still relevant. They are providing an in-person experience that they can use to show young Americans, young adults, and prospective prospects who are looking at military service. They're providing that experience hands-on, one-on-one, have that interaction, build a relationship so that they can fully understand and ask some questions. Another thing that they did phenomenally here is work in Second Lieutenant Madison Marsh, an officer in the Air Force who just won 2024's and just crowned Miss America. Phenomenal feat. Absolutely phenomenal feat. The fact that you can tie in an individual who is not only of service in a military capacity, but also of service in the civilian capacity as well with those things, right? That is a phenomenal move, phenomenal experience. And I think others could take that and make note of it. And side note, Marine Corps, we might need to be in more pageants. We might need to do that. All right. Any ideas, any takers? Drop them in the comments. Let's go. Time to who's going to win Miss America 2025 from the Marine Corps? All right. I challenge you. Let's make it happen. All right. So let's see how the Navy is doing. The Navy is taking a much more muted approach to this year's game. Again, let's review real quick where they're at in the year. Okay. In the year so far, here's where they're at. Bam. They are hovering between 50 and 75%, maybe around 60-ish percent, right around there. So with that being said, taking a little muted approach or notably muted approach, I don't know if that's really going to be the best answer to what's going on. But let's continue reading. The Navy is taking a much more muted approach to this year's big game. In contrast to last year, when it took central stage at Super Bowl with a flyover aimed at honoring female naval aviators, though not without some controversy, which is, I don't even know why that's in there. Doesn't really matter. Shout out to the female pilots. More power to you. You're doing great. You're doing great things. Phenomenal. The fact that you're a female versus male really doesn't freaking matter anymore. I still don't understand what that has to do with anything. But the spokesperson said that the Navy will air a 30-second in-game Super Bowl commercial in 14 key recruiting markets throughout the country. According to the spokesperson, the commercial will include previously aired Navy recruiting ad, a previously aired recruiting Navy ad, as well as a new commercial developed to promote the Navy Reserve. All right. So the stats that I was showing you earlier, okay, are for the active duty component. So the active duty component, again, let's review. The Navy is hovering right around 60% attained for the year for active duty component. And yet we're going to launch a new ad for the reserves during the Super Bowl. Okay. Maybe could get it, maybe could understand it. Honestly, don't. We're not hitting the mark with active duty component as well. We're going to talk more about that overall, why things like that across the other branches. However, it is what it is. Okay. Kudos for trying, but taking a quiet approach. I don't quite know if that was the best bet given the opportunity here. Now, let's see how the Marine Corps is doing. The Marine Corps, which has met its recruiting goals, unlike other branches in the last few years, is not advertising during the Super Bowl. Instead, like the Army and Navy, it will be airing 4 pre and post game commercials on Paramount Plus. The advertisement that it will be airing is called Shifting Threats, a commercial that features the Marine Corps' capabilities and service members as a response to the evolving turmoil around the world. The purpose of the advertisement is to increase brand awareness. The ad is expected to garner 26 million impressions or when a user interacts with the content. The centerpiece, quote, the centerpiece of the Marine Corps isn't a platform. It is the individual Marine, end quote. Lieutenant Colonel Rob Dolan, Director of Marketing Communication for the Marine Corps Recruiting Command, told military.com via email. Quote, the concept behind the Shifting Threats campaign is to explain who we are and what we do for the nation while communicating the Marine Corps' identity to this generation of prospective Marines, end quote. We will come back to this, but the fact and simplicity or the things we do are simple in the Marine Corps. We take a concept, we take an objective, we take an idea, we take a mission, and then we apply simplicity to it and to communicate something that's always been communicated at the core of the Marine Corps for a very, very long time. Okay. And herein lies the lesson. Let's take a look again at what this lieutenant colonel is quoted saying, quote, "The centerpiece of the Marine Corps isn't a platform. It's the individual Marine," end quote. That is why we, as the Marine Corps, in my opinion, having spent 5 years on recruiting duty, in not only the canvassing recruiter capacity, going out and talking to young men and women, but also as what's called the staff non-commissioned officer in charge or a station commander's role as well. That is why the Marine Corps will always meet its recruiting objectives. It comes down to the individual Marine. Okay. What we are instilled with as we go through that transformation of recruit training from who we are, the nasty civilian, into the well-groomed, trimmed, twisted steel, right? Locked and cocked and disciplined individual who has the ability to think and use critical thinking skills to work through problems and accomplish the objectives. It's that individual Marine and their ability that allows us to continue to meet our recruiting objectives. Going back to the beginning, if you look at the stats continuously for this FY, okay, this fiscal year, the Marine Corps was already above, and we have been above 100% all the way through December. January's haven't hit yet. But so far, as of December, we are at and above 100% of our mission, of our obtainment. And just like this article reads, the Marine Corps, which has met its recruiting goals unlike other branches in the last few years, is not advertising during the Super Bowl. So that is why we have met our recruiting objective in the last couple of years and historically have been good, because it comes down to the individual Marine, the grit, the tenacity, the relentlessness, the perseverance, the things that call us to be Marines and why we're called Marines and why individuals aspire to be us, why individuals are appreciative of us, why Americans can sleep safe at night is because of those qualities we apply in the recruiting realm. Because at the core of everything, it's because of the individual. It is because of me. It is because of the team that I was with in the office. While I was on recruiting duty, here's a lesson for every other branch. All the other branches were like, man, you guys work too hard. You guys work a lot. You guys work insane hours. And it's true. We worked a lot. It took a toll on the family. No, I'm not going to deny that. I'm not going to say it was fun, sunshine and rainbows, skipping through like daffodils all the time, because it wasn't. A lot of the time, most of the time, we were getting kicked in the gonads, right? Like that's just what it was. It's like getting like judo chopped in the throat, taking a throat punch every day, getting punched in the face every day with people's ignorant, arrogant, and sometimes asinine views of what they have going on. But you know what? It is because of the grit. It is the relentlessness. It is the perseverance. It is the leadership traits and principles and who we are at the core as a Marine, our core values of honor, courage, commitment. We don't know how to quit. Even though we want to quit, we don't know how. At the core, the majority of us is net positive. We don't know how to quit. So if you're in the Air Force, you're in the Navy, you're in the Army, you're in the Coast Guard, you're in any other recruiting capacity, apply this in the civilian world. You have to execute every single day. I had a saying when I was on recruiting, right? And I apply it now, right? But the concept was, if you run the play, you'll win the day. And people used to make fun of me for it, but if you run the play, you do what you need to do every single day, you'll win the day. It's one day at a time. And that's how we tackle it. It's one mission at a time. It's one planning at a time. It's everything is just everything. But it comes down to the investment that we have and the understanding that we have in the confidence we have in the individual Marine that allows us to continuously meet our mark, make our mission, and provide the defense that this country needs. Not sitting here throwing a whole bunch of ads during a Super Bowl game, not worried about Taylor Swift and what she's doing and who she's endorsing, not worried about the drama on the field, any of that. It's not any of that. You want to talk about a crisis? The crisis is that the United States of America's armed forces do not have the same level of grit, tenacity, relentlessness, and dedication to what they do to be excellent in everything they do, that we are at risk of having a national defense issue should everyone not get their heads out of where the sun don't shine and show up and be the service members that the American people expect you to be. That's what needs to happen. We, as the service member, as the recruiter, as anyone providing, and even in the operational forces, need to get our heads out of where the sun don't shine, do the best in everything that we do, stop being lazy, execute the level of grit, tenacity, relentlessness, and perseverance that is expected of us from the American people who we swore to uphold and defend. That is how we get out of this recruiting crisis. That is how we increase retention. That is how we move forward. We need to be leaders. We need to invest in our people. We need to invest in our fellow service members. If you're in the Army, that's your soldiers. Air Force, that's your airmen. Navy, that's your sailors. Okay. Marines, that's your Marine. You need to invest in them, force them to grow, hold them to the high standard that the American people know that we hold ourselves to. Now, Marines, we are leading the way in this charge, and recruiting data can tell you the way, but there is a great room for improvement. And if you're with me, I need you to be with me. I need you to help me grow with you in this capacity. I challenge everyone to grow, but Marines, we will continue to lead the way. So, again, don't be dense. Let's share some common sense. This seems pretty simple to me. Just do what your organization has instilled in you and invest in those who are under you, in your subordinate leaders, and be the service members that the American people need, that the world will see as a threat, not some sunshine and rainbow fairy like frolicking through the daisies that people believe us to be now. Because I know that's not it. I know that's not us. So it's you and me. We need to change this. So don't be dense. Share this common sense, and we'll talk to you next time.